Hi guys, welcome to my baking channel. My name is Susie, and on this channel I show you how easy baking is if you understand the basics and the science behind baking. Today I'm making one of my favorite bread recipes. I'm making Tangzhong bread. Tangzhong is an Asian style of making bread where we cook a small amount of the water and the flour in the recipe to a paste. During the heating process, the dough starts to form a strong gluten network, which will allow the dough to absorb more flour without the dough getting too sticky. This results in bread that is very soft and fluffy, but also helps extend the shelf life of the bread. This bread also reminds me of kumba bread I used to eat back home in Cameroon, so it also brings back some nostalgic feelings. To make the tangzhong, I'm going to add water and flour to a frying pan, and I'm going to cook that over low to medium low heat. I'm going to keep stirring until it forms a thick paste, and you know it's ready if you run your spoon across the pan and it doesn't come out clean. After your tangzhong is ready, go ahead and transfer into a dish and place it in the fridge for about 30 minutes to an hour or until it cools down. You want your tangzhong to be at room temperature before you add it to your dough. If you add it to your dough when it's still warm, it's going to make your dough very sticky and hard to work with. If you don't have the time to let your tangzhong cool down to room temperature, you can go ahead and add your cold milk and egg from the fridge. This will help cool it down a little bit, but if your dough is too sticky, you may have to add a little bit of flour. It's a really good idea to measure out all of your ingredients before baking, because I can't tell you the number of times that I've been measuring my ingredients ready to bake and I noticed I'm out of milk or out of sugar or something. I'm going to start by combining the dry ingredients: yeast, milk, sugar, and salt. And as usual, I'm going to keep my salt separated from my yeast and mix them when I'm ready to start baking. This recipe calls for butter at room temperature or softened butter. If you don't have time to let your butter sit out, you can go ahead and cut it up into little cubes and put it in the microwave for about 5 to 10 seconds to get them soft. My milk is at room temperature. I'm going to go ahead and combine all of my wet ingredients so I can mix them together. Now I'm going to add the wet ingredients, except the butter, and just give it all a good mix. This dough is very sticky. I recommend kneading with a stand mixer if you have one. Otherwise, you have to be really patient and try not to add any extra flour when you're kneading the dough. If it's very sticky, I recommend that you grease your hands. That's what I'm going to do during the final steps of kneading. During kneading, after the ingredients have been well incorporated, I'm going to go ahead and add the butter. So I'm all done kneading my dough. It should take about 8 to 10 minutes if you're using a stand mixer. And you want to knead until everything comes together and your dough looks fairly elastic. It's not going to be super smooth. We're going to smoothen it out during the last 30 seconds of kneading we're going to do on the countertop. But if you're kneading by hand, I think that's another story. I haven't really ever done that before with this dough, but you just want to keep kneading until the dough comes together. Again, if it's very sticky, go ahead and grease your hands or use some water. I prefer grease or oil over water, but go ahead and grease your hands, and the surface is going to help with you handling the dough. So before I even put my dough onto my surface, I'm going to go ahead and grease it because I know that my dough is sticky. After forming the dough into a ball, I'm going to grease my container to prevent the dough from sticking onto it. And I'm going to transfer the dough and I'm going to cover with plastic wrap. I'm going to let the dough sit in room temperature for about 1 hour or until it's doubled in size. All right, the dough is done proofing. I'm going to go ahead and punch it down, and you can see it clearly doubled in size. I accidentally quadrupled the recipe, so I actually have enough dough to make 4 loaves of bread, which is great because I'm going to have more bread. I'm also going to give you guys multiple options depending on which pan you have. I'm going to go ahead and split up my dough. So if you're not doing what I'm doing, go ahead and split up your dough into 6 pieces. You can roll it into a log and then cut it into 6 equal pieces. But as usual, I'm going to use my scale so I get evenly sized pieces. After splitting up the dough, we're going to go ahead and form them into balls. So to form it into a ball, we're going to flatten out the dough a little bit, and then we're going to use the middle fingers on one hand to push the dough inwards, while the fingers in the other hand we're going to use to cup the dough and also pulling the dough downwards. And after we're done with that and we have a really smooth and taut ball, we're going to roll that on the countertop. So this is going to be not as long as the loaves we're making. We're going to let them sit for about 30 to 45 minutes in room temperature or until they doubled in size. Ideally, you want to bake this bread in a 8.5 by 4.25 pan. But if you don't have that, I'm going to show you what it looks like when you're using a 9 by 5 pan. First, we're going to grease our pans to prevent the dough from sticking to it. And then we're going to start forming our loaves. So first, we're going to roll the dough. And it should be about 8 inches in length. And then we're going to fold the dough into 3, like that. And then we're going to flip it over. And then we're going to tightly roll it. And make sure you pinch the ends together to form a tight seal. And it should look just like that. After shaping the loaves, we're going to let it sit in room temperature for about 30 to 40 minutes or until they've doubled in size. 10 minutes before baking, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Before baking, we're going to apply egg wash on the loaves. And the egg wash is an egg and a tablespoon of milk. And we're going to whisk them all together, and then we're going to use a baking brush to apply the egg wash on the loaves. After your oven is done preheating, go ahead and place the loaves in the oven. And for the dinner rolls, we're going to bake them for about 15 to 20 minutes. And for the other loaves, we're going to bake them for about 25 to 30 minutes. When your baked goods are out of the oven and your house smells heavenly, like there's no feeling like this. I'm going to go ahead and take the bread and I'm going to transfer them onto cooling racks. Wow, look at that. Look at that. This is the bread that was baked in the 9-inch pan, and this is the one that was baked in the 8-inch pan. And you can see like there's really no difference. Ideally, you want to let your bread cool down, and it takes about 2 to 3 hours before it cools down. But I can't wait. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot wait. So I'm going to go ahead and try the rolls first. My goodness. I feel like each time I make this bread, I surprise myself because of how good it is. It's so rich and fluffy. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all this bread. Eat it? See? So hot. It is way past my bedtime. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys try this out. You definitely need to try this out if you haven't made this before. You're not gonna regret it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.